Welcome back to the One Family Podcast, where we encourage and equip families for the marriage and parenting journey. Each week, we share practical insights and real-life encouragement to help you strengthen relationships, navigate challenges with confidence, and build a home where love and connection thrive. As a new school year begins, there seems to be countless things to do to prepare our kids for the year ahead. But there are also some important conversations that should take place. And one of the most important may be a conversation about friendships.
Who are your children choosing to spend time with? Are they choosing friends who are a positive influence? Or are they being influenced in unhealthy ways? And perhaps, just as important, what kind of influence are they having on others?
The beginning of a new school year is a natural time to talk about these questions. Kids are reconnecting with old friends, meeting new classmates, joining new teams and activities, and developing relationships that can have a significant influence on who they become. So today we're going to talk about something we believe is an important life skill for our kids to learn: how to choose friends wisely, and how to become the kind of friend who brings out the best in others too.
One of the things we believed strongly as parents was that it wasn't appropriate to simply tell our boys who they could or couldn't be friends with. We believed our responsibility was to teach them how to recognize a good friend and, importantly, how to be a good friend.
And this is where we found the book of Proverbs to be such a practical parenting resource. Proverbs is filled with wisdom about relationships, character, decision-making, and friendships. There were two verses in particular that we shared with our kids from the time they were in kindergarten, throughout their teenage years, and even into college. Proverbs 12:26 says, "The godly give good advice to their friends, the wicked lead them astray." And Proverbs 13:20 says, "Whoever spends time with wise people will become wise, but whoever makes friends with fools will suffer."
Those verses became a part of our conversations over the years. But we simply didn't read the verses and say, well, there you go. Now you know how to choose friends. We talked about what they meant. What does a friend who gives good advice actually look like? How do you recognize someone who is wise? What does it mean to become wise by spending time with wise people? And what should you do when a friend encourages you to do something you know isn't right?
These questions are important because our children need more than a list of rules. They need wisdom and discernment. As parents, we can say, don't be friends with that person, but eventually our children are going to make decisions without us. They're going to go to college, they're going to get jobs, they're going to enter into relationships, they're going to make decisions when we aren't standing beside them. So our goal should be to help them develop the ability to recognize character and make wise decisions for themselves.
And one of the things we tried to teach our boys was to look beyond whether someone was popular, funny, athletic, talented, or simply fun to be around. Those things aren't necessarily bad, but they're not what makes someone a good friend. A good friend has character, they can be trusted, they tell the truth, and they respect others. A good friend encourages you to do what is right.
And here's a question we can teach our children to ask. What kind of person am I becoming when I spend time with this friend? That's a powerful question for any child, teenager, or even adults, because the people we spend significant amounts of time with influence our attitudes, our choices, our priorities, and ultimately our character. There's another principle that was important for us as parents as well. Insulate, don't isolate. Our goal shouldn't be to isolate our children from anyone who might potentially influence them negatively. That's just not realistic.
Our kids are going to encounter all kinds of people. They're going to meet children from different families, different backgrounds and experiences. And they're going to encounter different values, different behaviors, different perspectives at school, maybe at sports or activities, camps, youth groups, and throughout the neighborhood. But that's a part of growing up.
So rather than trying to create a bubble around our children, we wanted to help them develop the values, confidence, character, and wisdom that they needed to stand up to peer pressure and navigate relationships well. One practical way we did that was by being involved in our boys' lives. We weren't hovering or smothering, but when they made new friends, we'd invite those friends into our home to play or hang out, and we'd get to know their parents too. We drove carpools, we coached teams, we volunteered at school, we participated in activities alongside our boys.
And those weren't ways of controlling every friendship. They just gave us an opportunity to know the people who were influencing our children. We could observe relationships from the sidelines. We could see how our boys interacted with their friends and how their friends interacted with them. and how those relationships were affecting our boys.
And sometimes what we observed led to some important conversations. There were occasions when other kids encouraged our boys to do things that weren't consistent with the values that we were teaching. Things like lying to us, sneaking around, using inappropriate language, or making choices that they knew weren't right.
Those situations can be challenging for parents because our first instinct can be to step in and say, "You're not allowed to be friends with that child anymore." And certainly there were times when parents need to establish that kind of boundary. But whenever possible, we tried to turn those situations into teaching moments.
We asked our boys, could this friendship cause you to compromise your character or go against our family values? Is this person helping you to become a better person, or are they pulling you in the opposite direction? And another important question was, could you be a good friend to this person without compromising who you are? And that last one was especially important to us.
Because we didn't want our boys to think that being a good person meant avoiding everyone who was different from them. We wanted them to understand that they could be a positive influence on others. There's a difference between being influenced by someone and influencing someone for good. And that's an important distinction to teach our children.
Exactly. We want our kids to be able to recognize when a relationship is pulling them away from their values and who they are, but we also want them to understand that they can be a source of encouragement, kindness, and positively influence someone else. And that's part of being a good friend.
Another thing that helped us was sharing stories from our own childhood and teenage years. We would talk about friendships that were positive, friendships that weren't. We talk about times when we made good decisions and times when we made poor decisions. We also talked about peer pressure and what it felt like to want to fit in or be accepted.
And I think these stories can be incredibly powerful because our children need to know that we've been there too. They need to know that we've stood up to peer pressure, that we understand what it's like to want to fit in, to want to be accepted, to want to be part of the group. And when we share our experiences without turning them into lectures, we are creating opportunities for meaningful conversations.
So instead of saying, "Don't make the mistakes I made," we can say, "Here's what happened to me. Here's what I learned. What do you think you would do?" That changes the conversation. It allows our kids to think. And that's really what we're trying to develop, the ability to think wisely and make good decisions.
We wanted Trevor and Alex to become increasingly discerning about their relationships. We wanted them to understand that they could choose friends who would build them up rather than tear them down. And we also wanted them to understand that they had a responsibility to be that kind of friend as well.
Now, we also want to be realistic. There were times, particularly when our boys were younger, when we needed to put boundaries around certain friendships. Children don't always have the maturity or the experience to recognize the consequences of their choices. And that's one of the responsibilities we have as parents. Sometimes we need to step in and protect our children.
Sometimes we may need to limit the amount of time they spend with someone. Sometimes we might need to say, you're just not going to spend time with them outside of school. And sometimes the answer may simply be, this is not a friendship we're going to encourage. And that doesn't mean we're failing to teach our kids independence. It means we're recognizing that our kids need protection while they're developing wisdom.
We stayed focused on our family identity, the character, the values, the attitudes, and behaviors we wanted to define our family. We wanted our boys to know who they were, what our family stood for, and what kinds of behaviors were consistent or inconsistent with those values. There were a couple of difficult friendship lessons during the elementary school years for sure, and that required some parental intervention.
But looking back, those lessons paid significant dividends during the teen years. Because as our boys got older, we couldn't and shouldn't be making every friendship decision for them. They needed to make those decisions, and we needed to trust the foundation that we had been building. That's really the progression of parenting. When children are young, we have a tremendous amount of authority over their environment. And as they grow, our goal is to gradually move from parental authority toward parental influence. We want our children to eventually make wise decisions because they've developed wisdom and character, not simply because of something mom or dad told them to do. Choosing friends wisely is an important part of growing in moral and relational maturity, and it's a life skill that our children will use for their entire lives. Think about how many different friendships our kids will develop as they grow. Elementary school friends, middle school and high school friends, then college friends, work friends, and neighbors. And eventually, friendships will influence the people they choose to spend their lives with. So as you prepare your family for this new school year, new sports season, or youth group, we'd encourage you to put friendship on your list of conversations. It's not a lecture or an interrogation, it's just a conversation. Maybe it's when you're driving your child to school, or maybe you're just having dinner together. Maybe you're sitting together before bed. Ask them, what do you think makes someone a good friend? And then really listen.
And also ask them, what qualities do you look for in a friend? Who are some of the people who bring out the best in you? Have you ever had a friend encourage you to do something that you knew wasn't right? And then ask, what kind of friend do you want to be?
That last question may be the most important because our goal isn't simply to protect our children from bad influences. Our goal is to help them become people who influence others for good too. And remember, those don't have to be one-time conversations because friendship is something you can talk about through every age and stage of childhood. These questions may change, though, as your children grow, but the principles remain.
Our kids are surrounded every day by competing ideas, values, philosophies, and influences. We can't control all those influences, but we can give our children something far more valuable than control: wisdom and discernment.
We can't choose our kids' friends forever, but we can teach them how to choose wisely. And we can teach them what good character looks like. We can help them recognize relationships that are building them up rather than bringing them down. And we can teach them to become the kind of friend who brings out the best in others. That's a skill that will bless them not only through their school years, but their entire lives.
Thanks for joining us today on the One Family Podcast. As you prepare your family for the new school year, we hope you'll make friendship one of those conversations you intentionally have with your children. Remember, strong families don't happen by accident. They're built intentionally, one conversation, one relationship, and one day at a time. If today's conversation was helpful, please share this episode with another parent who could benefit from it. We also want to mention that we have several upcoming online parenting classes designed to encourage and equip parents with practical tools they can begin applying right away.
Starting September 1st, we're offering Parenting Toddlers for parents of children 18 months up to 5 years. This class focuses on navigating the early years with foundational tools and realistic expectations. Starting September 16th, Parenting from the Tree of Life is for parents of children ages 5 up to about 12 or 13. This is our comprehensive parenting course with a deeper focus on character building, family dynamics, and heart training. And beginning October 27th, we're offering Parenting the Middle Years for parents of children ages 7 through the teen years. This course focuses on transitioning from our parental authority toward our parental influence and preparing for the teen years. You can find the links to all of these classes along with the One Family podcast on our website at onefamilyhwl.org. Just click on the Events tab.
So until next time, keep investing in the relationships that matter most. Your one family.